Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Michelle, I'm an ENFP, and today we're going to talk about what I actually consider to be the criteria for a good movie. Just a massive disclaimer before we get started, I am not the set endpoint, and I don't think anyone is, of what determines a good movie from a bad movie. I'm going to share what makes a good movie to me. Are those aspects what's important to everyone? By God, no. That's just not how it works. But I want to talk about what I actually think makes a good movie. After my superhero movies suck video, people are like, okay, well then what do you like? What do you look for? So today we're going to talk about what those things are. First and foremost, what makes a good movie is the gosh darn plot. Like, are you guys crazy? Half of why we watch something is for the plot of the movie. If a plot doesn't have something that is somewhat interesting to grip onto, why am I watching it? I could be watching or reading so many other things. If there's not a decent plot, then what do I care? So this is coming from a writer's perspective. When I want a plot, I want something that has rewatch value and that has intrigue to it. So it needs to be somewhat complicated, but also simple enough that I can understand it, complicated enough that it's worth rewatching, and not really outside of those two realms. There are such things as too complicated of plots, and there are exceptions to the rules. There are times when a plot is incredibly complicated and I still love the movie. For example, Cloud Atlas and Memento. Those two movies have incredibly complicated plots, but for some reason I can put up with that even though it's just a movie. You can look up videos for days on what makes a good plot and pacing and all that. Look that up yourself. We're all gonna have differences of opinion there. Those are the things that are most important to me. Does it have to be the most fast-moving plot? Does it have to be a slow plot? I don't really care about the speed of the plot. I just care that it's interesting enough that I'm paying attention to it, because plot is a huge part of why I watch a movie. As somebody who's obsessed with personality, I bet this goes without saying that character development is probably one of the absolute highest important pieces in a story or movie to me than anything else. Because I care about psychology, I love psychoanalyzing people, and in movies, there is that opportunity. So I want the characters to be interesting and to have some development. And when I say character development, I don't just mean that they change throughout the story. I think that that's good. It's good when a character makes growth and makes changes. But there's a particular kind of character development that is my most favorite, and those are the kinds of stories that stand out to me. Those are the kinds of stories that I think over and over about, that I rewatch to try to figure out how they ended up the way that they ended up and how the writer was able to figure this out. And those are stories where the characters' change revolves around their blind spot in their personality. It revolves around something where they are either too egotistical to see, or maybe they are just completely ignorant to that aspect of themselves. It points out their greatest weakness and makes them deal with it. That is my favorite kind of character development, where they either succeed and get over it, or they completely cripple and fail, but either way, they're addressing their greatest weakness. That is the most interesting character to watch, and I love stories that do that. Examples of stories that have incredibly compelling characters who have to fight against their character flaws. Gladiator, Attack on Titan's a TV show. Gladiator, Goodfellas, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Her. These are examples of movies where the main character has to go against their blind spot and confront it, deal with it head on. That makes, for me, the most interesting character development. And then it kind of tears down. If they don't make a change, or they have a flat personality, or their change doesn't make sense, that's gonna bump down how much I like a movie more often than not. There is such a thing as a character who just does not change, and that can be really good if there's a reason why they don't change, and that reason is validated by everything that happened in the story. So that's that. Next, I don't don't know about you guys, but to me, I don't want to watch something that doesn't have a point. Theme is one of the other main contributors to a good story. That theme could be as simple as good versus evil, or finding your true love, or do souls exist, or what is the consequence of a society in which we have this certain technology. Whatever the theme is, there's a huge range, but I need to feel the writer's passion. I need to feel the passion of the theme coming through in the story. It's not just the passion, it's not just the theme itself, but also the execution of the theme. I don't want to waste my time watching something that has no point, although I definitely have. The theme and the point of the movie is one of the most important aspects to me, and that is what I'm looking for in a really good movie. Then, and it probably goes without saying, but one of the most important factors in any movie or visual media that you are taking in is the acting. Bad acting means that you're not paying attention to the movie and the themes and the character developments, you're paying attention to how crappy the actors are. Acting is what immerses you into the story, and poor acting means poor immersion, and 99% of the point of a movie is to get immersed into the story, so acting is vitally important. My favorite kind of acting is where I lose sight of the actor themselves and I see only the character. An example of really great acting is from the movie called A Marriage Story. This is with Scarlett Johansson and the guy who played in Star Wars, forgot his name, he's got the big nose, you know him. The two of them do such an amazing job in A Marriage Story. Now that is an example of a movie that hits all of the nails on the head, so to speak. The theme, fantastic. The plot, fantastic. The acting, fantastic. And the character development is just beyond. And the story pulls you along with it. It pulls you in. You lose sight of the actors and all you see are these characters living their life and you feel immersed into their life. That is probably one of my favorite movies that I've watched in the last year because of how strong all of these elements were. And finally, probably the most obvious element, yet the least talked about one, is personal bias. Everyone has personal bias. My biases affect these categories alone, let alone my overall enjoyment of a movie. I need to have some kind of personal bias towards it in order to like it. There are exceptions. There are times when my bias is subverted and I find something that I really like despite it not being like my normal cup of tea. But in general, my personal bias is affecting how much I like a story a lot. It could be the expectations I had going in, it could be my experience with the genre, the author, the writer, the whatever it is. There are biases that I have that affect how much I like a movie. So to summarize, what makes a good movie to me is one that has a strong, clear, complicated yet interesting plot that isn't too complicated that you forget it all, but is also complicated enough that you need to rewatch it in order to fully understand it. I want strong character development where the character is going against their weakness. They are having to fight against their blind spot and overcome it or fail to overcome it. Then I want a strong theme. I want to know what the author or writer is trying to get across by making this movie, and I want it to be executed well. Then we're talking about the acting, which is all about whether or not I'm going to be immersed into the story. And then finally, most importantly, yet least talked about, is my personal bias. My personal bias, just obviously personal bias. If you don't think personal bias has something to do with whether or not you like a movie or whether or not other people like a movie, then you're just, I don't know, you're living in la la land. Personal bias is like the biggest factor. So, all that being said, those are my things that matter to me when I watch a movie. These categories basically line up with books or TV shows that I want to watch, but and to be honest, I do prefer books and TV shows because I prefer a long format. Like I said earlier, movies are more like short stories, so they are limited in how much they can get across in how much time they have. And like short stories, they need to be relatively simple in order to accomplish that. Is that necessarily bad? No, but it means that the individual elements, the plot, the character development, the theme, they're condensed and they don't have as much time to go over them. which is why I prefer TV shows and books, because there's a lot more time to delve into these different aspects, because those are the aspects that I care about. And with all that being said, I want to thank you so much for watching this video and listening to me talk about the things that I think make a good movie. What are things that you think make a good movie? What is your categorical system for figuring out what is a good movie? Let me know in the comments down below. If you want to continue this discussion, go ahead and join the Discord. If you want to, you could also join the Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. I post stories, I ask questions, I do all that kind of stuff there too. So with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a beautiful, amazing, fantastic day. Bye-bye.